board's had in place a master plan now for a number of years, and among other things with this master plan includes the building of a motel, hotel, function rooms, a gymnasium, and some outdoor entertainment areas. So that's been in place now for, like I said, for quite a few years. But over the last 12 months, the location of that motel has changed for a number of reasons, and the site selected for that will be the current playing field, I guess, or the football oval, Scully Park number 1.
You had a bit of reaction to the car park when you put it in. What are the neighbours telling you about this idea?
Well, the DA hasn't been advertised to the neighbourhood, and I guess that will be addressed once that's advertised to the neighbours. I guess, look, West has a really good association with the neighbourhood. In fact, we meet with the neighbours once a year where we sit down and discuss the last 12 months, the next 12 months, what's going right, what's working and what's not working. So the relationship with our neighbours is currently second to none, and we work through that with the car park. In fact, we also worked through one of the major achievements we have the merger between the RSL club and West League some years ago. So, and that today is very successful.
So at the moment, how big is this plan? I mean, how big would the hotel be, and where are you at in the sort of planning stages?
Look, the plans have been submitted to council. The DA has been lodged. That was lodged late last week. So I guess we're in the lap of the gods there with council as they work through those plans and determine if they believe that site's right and if it obviously suits the neighbourhood. We believe we've spent quite considerable time and money, I guess, in research with consultants and architects to design that. So we're talking about a hotel of 4-star nature being around 54 rooms. There's also a lot of concern that we're getting into accommodation, and the reasons why we're getting into accommodation is basically because the board saw a need, or has seen a need over the last few years, that we need to diversify our business to survive. We've seen perhaps in the last 20 years a decline in alcohol. We predict that there'll be an equal decline in gaming. So
really,
yeah, and look,
how big a decline are you expecting?
Well, I guess if you look at the last few years with both federal and state governments and their concern on problem gambling, that type of thing as well, it's got to have some effect. So we would see that perhaps in some years to come there will be a decline, and we want to take our reliance away from gaming and diversify into other areas, hence the accommodation side of things.
So what percentage of your income will the hotel make up in the end?
Good question. Our early reports are saying that initially it will be somewhat of a small percentage, but it will grow. We're having to have it roughly around about 40% of our business. So it will have a function room attached to it, therefore accommodation and a conference centre, and we think that will be a huge attraction to the area.
Okay, so on to the sporting ground issue. What will it mean for major sporting events?
Well, what it does mean, there has been some talk now about a stadium being built. Council have, and Gary Chillingsworth from the North Tamworth Football Club has spoken about a stadium being built in town, and we've also in discussions with Council about a stadium. In fact, we thought perhaps the West site could have been a location for a stadium that will probably accommodate up to 6,000 spectators. Look, we believe once that's built in town, regardless where it goes, and it won't happen in the Scully Park area because of the residential neighbourhood that we're located in, but once that stadium is built, that will take away from what Scully Park has today. So obviously a stadium will have better spectator facilities, and that's important, I guess. When you're paying $40 or $50 for a ticket, you need to be sitting in a comfortable area, perhaps under shelter, perhaps out of the rain, which Scully Park doesn't have today. So, we've sat down and the board has had long and hard conversations and discussions about what Scully Park will be in 10 years' time, and they've come up with the plan to relocate Scully Park roughly 100 to 150 metres into another ground called Scully Park number 2, and spend quite a considerable amount of money in getting that ground up to scratch, which it's not a playable surface today, so that would take a lot of resources to do, and that ground would need to stand alone as well. So, we don't own number 2. We own our own ground. We don't own, council own that ground. We manage that ground on behalf for council. So we're currently in discussions with council to purchase that site, that ground, number 2, and so it remains as a recreational facility.
Okay, and what about the pool? What are the plans for the pool?
I'm not sure what the plans are. I understand there are lots of issues with the pool, with maintenance and equipment that's failing there. So I don't know what the life is of the pool, but at the moment
But you don't own that anyway.
No, we don't own that.
Not your responsibility.
We'd like to own it. I'd like to own it, and I guess the club would like to have that as part of our land, I guess. But at one point the pool was going to be upgraded, and Scully Park, number 2, was going to be turned into a car park. So. It's there are a lot of changes, I guess. The world doesn't stay the same forever, and we need to move with the times and change when we need to, I guess.
So given this has been a long-term plan of your boards and you've been moving towards this direction, and obviously councils, I'd imagine, aware of what you're thinking, have they been slow to act on finding a second large sporting venue to host those kind of A-League and NRL games?
Absolutely not. I believe there are a couple of locations around Tamworth that would suit a stadium, so it doesn't affect a neighbourhood area. One of those, look, I'm not sure where they are, but I probably would assume that could be out of the sporting area of Tamworth. Look, if that was to be built, it would be a good thing for Tamworth, and honestly, our club, and we've requested with council, can we be a partner? Can we be part of this? And that would be a good thing for the community and Tamworth as a whole.
If everything goes to the plans that you have in place, you're likely to start construction in September next year. Is that your hopes?
Look, we're not really sure. We think this will be a quite a lengthy, drawn-out process. One thing we won't do is affect a football season.
Next season's okay?
Yeah, look, we won't, and we've spoken about that, I guess, with the football club. We won't interfere with the football season. In fact, we don't own number 2 yet. Once we acquire that, if we require that, we need to get that ground up to scratch for both playing and spectators as well.
So do you think you could have Scully 2, if you're allowed to buy it, up and running by 2015 that season?
Yeah, I believe so. And
that would have the capacity to host those NRL pre-season games and A-League games?
No, I don't believe it'll have the capacity. It'll have a large capacity, but it'll have a capacity that would be suitable for local games. We've got to be careful that we don't over-capitalise that particular ground, knowing that there will be a stadium come along and to host those games. And look, council have indicated already, for that stadium to be successful in Tamworth, it would need to operate on a weekly basis. So it would need local games. So I'm not, I can only assume that they're talking about local Group 4 games, league, and also rugby going out there. So I'm probably a little bit concerned there what happens to our grounds then, I guess. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not your responsibility, obviously, but council is in. You've obviously been involved in the talks. What do you think will happen to those big games once your development starts?
Look, there's a game planned next year, I believe, with the Newcastle Knights. That will go ahead. It's a little bit of a wait and see. The games are few and far between at times as well. We've been fortunate enough the last couple of years, because council have been underwriting the cost of those particular games to run those games in Tamworth that have been held here, I guess. But look, we're embarrassed at times when it rains and people are sitting out there in the wet. We're embarrassed when it's too cold or too hot, I guess. So Tamworth really deserves a better facility in town. And look, if we could partner council with that, that would be a good thing.
What do you think the future will be? Do you see a stadium going up somewhere else? I mean, what are you hearing, Rod?
Well, I think at the end of the day, that will be up to the community. The community should demand a facility like that in town, I guess. And as I said earlier, if you're paying $40 to go and watch an NRL game, you'd like to sit there in comfort and not be worried about the weather, what's happening around you at the time. So, look, I do believe that a stadium will be built. I just don't know the time frame, and I guess that's up to council.
But you still don't think that they've been too slow to act, given that you're maybe a year away from redeveloping the only venue that can host those events in town?
I don't think so. I think council, like our organisation, has priorities, I guess, and they prioritise their works and what they're doing and what they have funding for. So, if at the end of the day we can partner with council to do that, it'll soften the blow, I guess, as far as cost is concerned, and it would be a major win for our organisation as well. We would continue to grow.